Hello everyone. My apologies for my voice. It's just a little scratchy and a little soft anyway. I'm kind of losing my voice or something due to allergies. But for those that watched last week, I made a trip down to the Antique Radio Charlotte event. I was only able to spend a couple hours, but it was a lot of fun. I posted a video. You guys check it out if you hadn't had an opportunity to do so. There were a lot of vendors there. Unfortunately, I didn't get time to really video all the cool items that everybody brought down. But I had some questions from a couple viewers wanting to know if I bought anything. Even though I'm not really in the buying mode anymore because I've got so many radios in the collection that really need to be restored. I did find this beautiful Silvertone. At the time, I didn't know the model or make, and then I came back and did some research. But really cool story. The vendor that had it, really super nice man. He sold it to me for $10, even though he had it listed for $20. So just kind of a funny story. I walked up and I saw this because, again, I'm going to call it the topless set. I actually had another radio that I did my restoration on many years ago, and I called it the topless set. But having this cabinet broke, it just kind of caught my eye, plus all this missing veneer. Anyway, back to the story. I walked up and I said, how much are you going to pay me to take that? And he said $20. And then, of course, right when he said that, he caught what he said and said, no, you pay me $20. And I said, I can't pay you $20, I'll give you $10. So that's what we settled on, and I think that's fair. Looks like it's missing one tube. I hadn't even looked to see which tube's missing. This is, again, a little 5-tube Super-Heterodyne set. So let me give you a little bit of history on it, what I found out. This radio was made by Sears and Roebuck, and again, it's a Silvertone brand. It was marketed as the Companion back in 1933, and if you look back in the catalog, it shows that the set sold for $17.50. It's operated at that time on 110 volts AC or DC. And a couple neat features that we'll follow up on in the video if I get around to a restoration. It mentions automatic fading control. So maybe, again, that's the automatic volume control. We'll find out for sure when we look at the schematic down the road. Also, it said it used a geared condenser, and that was to simplify or ease the radio for tuning. Another cool thing, a lot of the radios for the period would tune below the AM broadcast band. This one tunes down to 170 meters, so that's the old police band. So when that was active, it allowed folks to use this type of receiver to get below the broadcast band and pick up some of the old police band. When I was looking in the catalog, something that kind of caught my eye, I wanted to see how many other table radios were made by Silvertone in 1933. So if the information I have is correct, there were only 3 table model radios produced in 1933. There was a little small 4-tube radio that was made. It was called the Little Fella. And then they had the 6-tube model, and it was called the Deluxe Silvertone Compact. The 6-tube had an 8-inch speaker. It sold for $26.95. Then back again to the Little Fella. The 4-tube sold for $11.95. The other thing, when you look at the marketing material for this particular set, looks like Silvertone was geared at adding a second set to the home. Just based on the value or the price point that they settled on again. Again, $17.50, thinking that was affordable for that second set, or to be used for young folks going away to school to take that second set, or to be used in hospitals. So I thought that was pretty cool. You guys probably know too, one of Sears' best known radios, the World's Fair model, was also manufactured that year and sold for $27.50. So not sure how many of these were made or sold. That would be interesting again to find out. Anyway, you can see here, hopefully these pictures are showing up okay. It's a beautiful walnut veneer, and it's crossed up in various locations. And then I think what makes this spectacular is this beautiful inlay. And I love the grille design as well. So I think it has a lot of potential. Again, it's going to have a lot of veneer work. The front fascia here is loose as well. This part of the cabinet, we'll have to recreate this top piece. Hopefully I can take pieces of the veneer here that are on the top and possibly reuse some of that veneer here on the front. If not, we'll look at peeling maybe some veneer off the sides. But I don't think these knobs are the original either. This one may be. I was trying to look at the advertisement, so if one is original, it looks like this would be the original knob. But no big deal there. We'll try to get a matching pair. So let's take a look at the rest of the radio here. Again, here's the top itself that I mentioned. You can see where it's warped and probably just set in an area with a lot of heat and humidity, and all this came loose. And this should be more rounded, just like you see here on this edge, so when the veneer comes up it should just wrap around, and that's what the catalog shows as well. You turn this thing around here and look at the sides. I do like the cabinet design. You can see the way that it comes up and then comes in and then goes back in and gets more narrow as you approach the top side of the cabinet here. You can probably see that maybe in this view a little bit better. Let me turn it around here. We'll take a look at the back side here. Let me just get this top out of the way. So again, it is a little 5-tube, and it's a Super-Heterodyne set. And again, I'm missing this one tube here that we'll have to check out and see which one it is. Originally, this thing sold with Silvertone tubes, but again, it doesn't look too bad. You can see a little bit of rust on the chassis itself, but you know, we'll take this thing apart here in just a moment, pop it out, and take a look and see if anyone's ever worked on it. Would be curious to see that. And you can see too, you got this metal plane at the top, so I'm assuming that was put there again just to minimize oscillation of the tubes and improve the performance there, to reduce birdies and squeals and all the above. So let me grab my screwdriver here, and I'll take, I think there's 4 fasteners on the bottom. Let me get those removed and get the knobs off, and we'll slide this thing out and take a look at it and see what kind of condition the top of the chassis is in. Take a closer look at the tubes, and then we'll turn it over together and check out the underneath side. Alright, again, I mentioned the fasteners. I'll go ahead and get them out, but we can kind of get a sneak look here. You got this screen mesh here, probably to keep the mice and rodents out, and I hope there's not one in, because I see a little chewing right here on this side. And definitely a place that looks like it's kind of been gnawed away, and gives a nice access point. So I hope this is not another critter radio. If it is, they will deal with it. So let me get these 4 fasteners out here at each corner. Okay, with those 4 fasteners out now, let's try to get this chassis out of the cabinet here. It's almost like it's wedged in there. I just wanted to make sure the speaker was attached here. There we go. Yuck. Alright, so no mouse in there, that's a good sign. Let me get this out of the way here just for a second, push this back. Here's a look at the inside of the cabinet. I think what it was getting caught on was the screen wire here. But here's the chassis itself, so you really can't see much. Again, we're missing a tube here. And looks like they've got the antenna lead and everything wrapped up in here, so I'll remove it cautiously here just to make sure I don't bend any of the plates there on the tuning condenser. And you can see you've got this metal piece here as well, which again is part of the design, I'm certain. So let's flip it over here together and take a look at it. So here we go. Cross your fingers. Hopefully nothing's going to jump out at us. So there we have it. Looks fairly clean. See if I can get some better light on this. Okay, here are things with just a little bit better lighting. So it does appear there is some type of geared mechanism here for the tuning assembly. It's kind of odd the way all these capacitors are in place. You can see some tape. Maybe some rat turds here on the side. And let's see what else seems odd about this. I thought I saw some other locations where it looked like some wires had been spliced, or maybe not. Possibly, though, the original capacitors. We'll have to go check those and see, and the old dog bone resistors. So really doesn't look bad at all underneath. Should make for a fairly straightforward restore. Again, you got a little something there on that, and yeah, I bet there's been you know, a few mice underneath here at some point in time. So we'll have to check everything out really close. Quite interesting, though, the way the design here is. I glanced at the schematic. I was trying to remember. I think there was a power resistor. It shows, I think, in series with the AC input prior to the rectifier. So I can't remember if that was part of the cord itself or if it's part of this resistor network that we see right here. We'll look at that closer. Some of the solder looks a little fresh here, so maybe somebody has been in here and worked on it at some point in time. Make sure I don't stick my hand through the speaker here. There's the front side. A lot of metal in the radio. It's kind of surprising. Metal top, metal front. A little bit of rust here with some pitting that we'll have to take care of. No big deal. Looks like a 5-inch speaker. Again, I think they mentioned it was a dynamic speaker. You can see the old spider itself with the center adjustment screw. Hopefully everything's in alignment there and we won't have to touch anything. So looks like a pretty cool little radio for a restore. Let me grab again the screwdriver and get these fasteners here. Looks like there's only 3 here that I need to remove. Let's get this top plate off and take a look straight down and see what the top side of the chassis looks like. Again, my apologies, my voice is just about gone. Yeah, 3 fasteners, 1, 2, 3, and then there's one more here on the side that down here at the bottom that I need to remove. And this plate should come off. I'll just set it back here out of the way. And there's a piece of the cabinet. So there we have it. It's pretty neat looking. Again, a little rust there on the whole chassis and the speaker But again, I think it's something that can be cleaned up pretty well with some navel jelly or other means. Hopefully this coil right here is not damaged. It's interesting where it looks like something's been gnawing on it. So hopefully those windings are still good and there's nothing going on there. Tuning condenser, same type of condition. You can see a little rusted up. The plates don't appear to be bent from this view, so I think we're okay there. Anyway, let's take a quick look at the schematic for this thing online, just to understand the tube complement. Then we'll wrap things up, and I'll set this aside, and hopefully someday, who knows when, we'll make a project out of this and try to do a restore on it, or at least a repair, see if we can get some audio out of this thing again. Okay, here's what I thought we would do is I referenced the schematic just a moment ago, so this should be the type 43 tube. That would be your audio output tube. And then if I looked at the schematic right, this would be the 6B7, which is the detector AVC and the audio frequency amp. This shows to be a rectifier. We'll look at that. It's I've never worked with one. It's a 1-V rectifier, and this should be a type 78 tube, and that's the IF tube. And then this is a 6A7, or should be, and this is the oscillator. That kind of makes sense. Here you can see your tie-ins back to your oscillator coil, and then back over to the tuning condenser. So let's start here and see indeed if this is the rectifier with the grid cap, or if the schematic is inaccurate. One thing I'm going to show here, hopefully I'll be able to do it. If you're removing these old grid caps and stuff, it's important not just to go grab it and pull up on it, because a lot of the times you'll just pull the grid loose out of the tube itself. So let me just see if I can get up underneath this one here on the tube at the bottom without damaging the tube, or in this area, and get a screwdriver up underneath there. Alright, there we go. Got it from this side. You can see I've got an opening here as well. So what I'm doing is pressing down on the top of the grid cap. And then I can remove it without creating a problem here. And then another thing as well, the tube may come loose from the base, so if all possible, try to work the tube from the socket itself. So it's a Sylvania tube, and what I see is a 6 Charlie 6. So that's not all what I was expecting to see. But it seems odd to me too that you would have a rectifier tube with a grid cap. So I have to look at this a little bit closer. Again, it appears to be a 6 Charlie 6 in this location. Well, I've got this out. Let's get back in here and see indeed if this is the type 43 tube. Man, the thing is in there tight. I don't think it's been out in a while. This may be the original Silvertone tube. That'd be cool if it is. Not sure if it's showing up or not, but you can see it is the 43 Silvertone tube. So maybe that's one of the original audio output tubes from 1933. Just a little loose there at the base. We can put a little glue around that made for a glass and tack that back down if the tube indeed is in good shape. Alright, let's see if what we have here next. This should be the Type 78 tube. Wouldn't be the IF, and that makes sense because you can see it wrapping down here, and it appears it's going down to an IF filter in this what it appears to be an IF can. It's a rectangle. But you can again see how I'm removing the grid cap wire. In strange tube shell, it's actually fasteners on each side to hold it in. So let me see if I can just wedge a screwdriver underneath the bottom side without damaging the tube socket and get this out, or if I'm going to have to go in here and try to get these fasteners off so I can actually get my hands around the tube itself. Again, what I'm doing is just putting pressure on the bottom of the tube itself, not the tube socket. It's an RCA. Indeed, it is a 6B7 in this location, not a 78 like the schematic calls for. Possibly that's a sub for the 78, I don't recall. And let's look at this one last one here, which should be tied to the oscillator circuit. There's always one that wants to be a little difficult. Let me see if I can get to the other side of this real quick and get this grid cap off here without damaging the tube. Okay, there we go. I may have to do this one the same way, just kind of pry up from underneath. Okay, this indeed is a 6A7, so this seems to match. And again, this is a Philco. Yep, 6A7. Just want to make sure my eyes weren't playing tricks on me. So we're not far off here. Again, we'll check and see if the 78 tube here. This is maybe a sub, and then we'll have to check the rectifier tube, see what's going on there. This appears to be a roll-up speaker. In the background, they made fantastic speakers for the period of time. And you can see the output transformer here. This mounted above that, and again, this must be an IF filter in this can. Which I don't recall working on a radio in the past that had a rectangular IF filter in a can like that, but we'll take a look at it and see. Yeah, the tuning condenser seems like it's seized up. It's tight, so I'm not going to mess with it because I don't want to take a chance of bending the plate here. But there you have it, folks. Thought I'd share that. Maybe we'll turn this into a restoration project down the road or something if time and resources permit. Just wanted to introduce you guys to this neat little companion Silvertone radio from 1933. Hope you enjoyed it. Take care.